Mistakes and cast them out like demons on the rail, staring lights at night. I gotta get inspiration.
Regardless of whether it is election critics are against foreign short-sighted view.
Well, here we go. The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium. All right, we are back and we are live. Had too many things going at once here, and so here we go. But we are back and live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, James Altheanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. Have a little graphic to the side, reminding the Conspiracy Channel, which is available through Roku and Amazon Fire and all that other stuff. I have a Roku, so I don't, Chrome TV and Apple TV. I don't, you have to check it out. Conspiracychannel.net is the website. They do have many great things on there. Rob, a longtime friend, is running that thing with blood, sweat, and tears. Let me tell you, he's got a lot of guts and commitment to do this. That's his job, is doing these things. So, anyway. There it is, conspiracychannel.net, featuring some videos from Feet to the Fire. So I got some personal news. If those who follow on Twitter and, actually, let me go to this webpage. Boom, boom. I want to remind you about Minds.com. It would be a competitor to Facebook, which there's really no competition in the way it works and looks and all that stuff. I am there, James Arthur Jancic, no spaces, one word, if you will. And also Gab, which would be the competitor to Twitter. Again, there's really no competition. The systems are great. There's no censorship. There's responsible posting in that, you have to mark it whether or not it's for over 18 or not. And other than that, you just pretty mute people you don't want to see, as opposed to having to, and there's no algorithms that knock you out and all that stuff. So those are the two things. I've been using them more and more, trying to switch over to Minds.com because it's easier for me to put a story up there and then link it anywhere else. Facebook, a lot of times you have to join Facebook to even see anything, and anyway, we all know about the Facebook algorithms. So I wanted to mention those two things. Let me close those. Let me get to my... All right, so I did post that my number 2 Donald Trump flag has been stolen. Now, I have a video camera up there, and it's just my bad because it would have caught perfectly who did it. But I didn't check the hard drive, which had... I don't know how many gigs it is. I mean, terabytes it is. I'm not saying gigs, terabytes. At least 1, and it's probably 2, and it's full. And these are stop-motion video. Probably most of them are raccoons walking across. And it filled up, but the camera itself has memory, which it overwrites in the camera and then downloads it as well. So I looked, and it went back to 10 o'clock p.m., and it was gone by then. So between 7 and 10 p.m. on Friday night, the flag was stolen again. But let me give you a little... This is what was flying Saturday afternoon. So I was thinking about getting a Trump 2020 flag, looking at them and going, well, you know, the one I have is from the last election, and it works fine. But since that was taken, I figured, well, what the heck? And so I got... flag of flying. I'm flying my freak flag, as Jimi Hendrix would say. So there we go with that. I also recorded a interview with Les Visible this afternoon, and as you know, Les hasn't been around for a while. As I'm flip. I don't know who this is. Calls. Let me remember the button. I have to push for this. Hello, you are on the air? On Feet to the Fire? Hello. I gotta switch this. Is that better? Hello, you're on the air? No, I guess not. I don't even, frankly, I don't even hardly pay attention to that because people haven't called in so long. I mean, back in the day, it was a call-in show, regular radio. But now with the internet, people usually just email and stuff, unless it's, I mean, harassing. But I'm going to try this again. Hello? It is. Yes.
To think that's a real email address. I'm just calling to let you know that July 22nd interview with the gentleman about Jesus is the poorest record. I can't hear it. I mean, it just breaks up really, really bad. And it's kind of disappointing. You know, I tried for about 15 minutes and my ears hurt.
Well, I just checked it out. Somebody posted on the website, and I just checked it out.
Oh, okay.
And it was listenable to me. I mean, I know it's not great, but...
Yeah. Well, okay. I just have... I don't have internet at home. I'm in between jobs, and unfortunately... you're blocked at the library a lot of times, and I was trying to listen on my telephone, and it's just like, it's just garbled. It's almost like the guy's drunk or high or something, and it pauses, it fades out every couple seconds.
Well, I'm going to guess that's a bandwidth issue on the connection, because I was at home playing it, and it does work. So, but there also... I want to mention that
I've gone back many times and listened to your recordings with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I just love them, and they were clear as a bell. Now, for whatever reason, this was just really, really... Well,
it's not great. It's not great to begin with because we had a problem, and we almost didn't do it because of the connection. But if you do go to Spreaker.com, that's like speaker with an R, Spreaker.com. It's an audio-only version of it, and it might be easier for you to listen to on your phone.
Well, try that. I appreciate it. With Mercury going retrograde next week, a lot of people are starting to have problems
Yeah.
already. But anyway, God bless, and thanks for your work.
All right.
okay?
Well, thank you
Hang
very
in
much. Bye. Well, maybe that did good. A good service for someone else trying to listen to that. I tell you right now, it is a bad audio, but when we were setting up, he couldn't hear me. I couldn't see him. He couldn't see me. The video was garbled, and the audio was garbled. It was tough, and we weren't going to do it. But I figured, what the heck? And so I apologize. As she pointed out, I do want to have quality, audio and video, and other stuff does work out. So but I do have. Let me go to the page. Less Visible said that he's been having some stuff happening to him in the last few weeks, and he sent me an email, which it was he had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and that it turned out that Jesus is who he's been praying to all along, and Jesus, this is qualified it. No, I'm just saying what Les is saying. So there's going to be people who are going to say that this is heretical. People are going to say this is Satan, and people are going to like it and believe it. And I have no warranty, express or implied. I had no problem with what he was saying. I think God reveals within a certain context with the individuals. Oh, he's so I feel like it doing it. So you don't like it, just turn it off. That's fine. And if you do like it, that's fine too. And so I also have a link to a vision that I had a couple years ago, having the return of Christ. So you can check that out as you may. So let me go to I think I was going to talk about that anyway before the phone came. So let me go back to the custom Facebook graphic here. I just got this article, came up, Washington Examiner. The original FISA warrant has been released. That's heavily redacted. But from what can be seen in there, this is just off top of what I just read. It backs up the Noonan memo. So, and now the call is to remove the redactions, which, of course, it's funny. President Trump can order all these people to put all this stuff out. He can declassify it all, just go boom like that, and it has to go out. But just like his backstepping, as I put it, Tucker actually, I don't really watch the mainstream much, here and there, but Tucker did an excellent job of saying, I couldn't have said it better. He did all the stuff with Putin and came back, and then he had to walk it back because everybody in all the rhinos, all the left, all the deep state, all said, basically, you want to do what you want, fine, but no to Russia. And so he walked it back. I was saddened by that, but then again, Trump is a pragmatist, and he knows when to back off when he can't win. He's a winner, and winners don't go in with a losing hand. They regroup. So let's just hope that's the case. I also want to mention, too, some people have actually written about me getting political here, and it's not political. I can't help it. There's a lot of absolute lying garbage going on. It affects the United States terribly where I live, and it does affect the world as well. So I have to get involved as I'm led in terms of, I'm led to, as I mentioned before, I'm led to BS or potential BS, and I look at it to find out where the stuff is. And it's pretty much in the mold of Socrates, which is not a great story. Not comparing myself to Socrates' ability, but I'm saying the whole kind of camp, let's say, the style, which is to go through and like a big comb and comb out the tangles and see what's left. So that explains what I'm doing. Believe me, I don't like to do it. So, in fact, the topic I'm going to get into is about engage or detach what's going on, and I'll get to that in a bit. I want to strongly recommend this man, Walter Burian. I have had him on Feet to the Fire in 2009. I have a link to that show. When I put the links up for my old pages, the show was a 4-hour show that's in 2 parts. Generally, the main guest is in the second part, which is 2 hours, and that's where Walter is. So you can go to that page, scroll down, and hit the part 2 link, and that should download the MP3. No charge. Walter Burian, his thing is CAFR, Consolidated something financial report. I can't remember it now. Man, I tell you. Anyway, he is starting an organization to try and retire taxation, because his claim is there are investments from all areas of local, federal, and state, which is having returns which aren't showing up in the budget. The budget is taxation, spending, which is negative. There's always more spending and taxation. However, there's nothing on the books of the income that comes from, like, investing in pension funds and whatnot. There's an income that comes in, and a bond issues and whatnot. And so that's his thing, is all of them have to come up with the CAFR report. And they do have them all in public. You just have to go look for them. The news never talks about them. You'll never hear them talk about it, because people would say, well, wait a minute, where's all this money? And so his point is to take that money and apply it, those profits, and apply it to the reduction of taxes. And so I got links for that on there. Going to his webpage. Oops, wrong link. Going to his webpage. Let me go to the full screen here. It goes into details about that, links and so forth, to explain all of it. He's a very well read and written man, and so the audio I did with him is interesting. But I mean, you could get what you want from his writings are really good. So. Want to bring, ever see his name come through, I always bring that up, because it's really good stuff. I said this as a joke. I figured out the quickest way to stop the irrationality, the surrealistic madness we see directed all around us. I'm not sure who hired him and by whose authority, but I say, let's fire David Lynch now, because this movie is getting too wild. Fellini's dead, otherwise I would have brought his name into it. Next, I have a recording on this. I'm not going to play it because it's like 2 hours long, but I have links to it, and I'll put the links below for the audio listeners so they can click on it after the fact. That has the Tommy rally, Free Tommy Robinson rally on the 14th of July. That was very good. Good speakers that were there. The Dutch man, Garth, I think his name's Gareth. He was not permitted to come in the country by Theresa May, so he sent a video. So it's kind of hard to keep the guy out. He's trouble. Well, he sends a video, so I guess that you're going to have to ban videos now, I guess, what that means. I also put up some more tongue-in-cheek, using rational arguments with the irrational is like, and I have, quote, Wonder Gravel clock underside of 15 Ford-based micrometers juxtaposing cooking and tweed rugs with new roof cement and pond ducklings without sunglasses. Now, it's like, what? Doesn't make any sense. There you go. You're talking to people who are having a irrational stance. For example, Donald Trump is a racist. All right, there's no evidence for that whatsoever. And all the evidence they put back are actually not truths. They're just lies, or they're extremely corrupting of what is true. And so, people, I mean, I've tried to explain to people, I've argued with them, and I've come up with rational discussions, and no. I mean, I have a friend who'll cover his ears and go, nah, he's laughing and thinks it's funny. So, a little comment. Here's something I'll play a little bit of. It's not too much. This is a video of a pro-Trump rally, which you did not see on, as the caption says, the BBC or CNN.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump! Mr. President, if you are seeing this, just know that the great deplorables of the United Kingdom love you, we are with you, we stand with you, and we want you to succeed. Forget about the people in London, forget about the establishment, forget about the Kingdom. We love you, Mr. President.
There you go. And now they're planning on putting some kind of blimp that's going to be riding up and down the West Coast. I don't know. I mean, it's just nuts. There's last week's show with my, I was kind of surprised. I thought more people would want that graphic, but, I have it tweeted out. It's on the website. If people would like to share it, but I thought it would have been a little bit more, but it wasn't. Maybe because it has a couple of Republicans in there, and some of the people are like, wait a minute, there's Republicans in there. But if you look at who it is, you'll agree. As I say, the real blame here in this is the Republicans in Congress, because Trump could justifiably fire all of these guys and bring in new people who would do the job possibly, but it's the rhinos that are in Congress that have made it clear that they would vote with the neo-Bolsheviks and the neo-Maoists to impeach, if he did that, for a non-existent obstruction charge. And so, in this next coming elections, not only is some of the real crazy Democrats in trouble, but the rhinos go as well. So, and I'm encouraged in this walk away movement. I've seen it before, and I looked, and my sister actually looked into it more, and she said, it's pretty rational stuff. These people are writing, and if you look in her Facebook, it's Walk Away Campaign is the name of the real page. They record videos of themselves talking and or write a text down, and it's pretty rational stuff. And it's encouraging because everybody who's on the TV is all nuts from the left and so on. Real important thing here. Ecuador will eminently withdraw asylum for Assange and hand him over to the UK. This is like happening this could happen right now, as we're talking, for all I know, because it's imminent. Now, why Ecuador reversed its stance? They gave him citizenship after the elections, which is, you'd think it'd be a step forward, but now they're talking about withdrawing. Now, the UK is going to arrest him, but there's no charges in Sweden. That's all been dropped. And I don't know if the United States have actually officially asked for extradition, but on what grounds? Because he did not involved in the I guess stealing of information, but he is the publisher, which has been shown in court all the way to Supreme Court that the publisher is not doing anything by publishing it. It's the guy who gets it. And so this is so obvious, and I just hope, if Trump doesn't fire these guys in the DOJ for fear of, obstruction, hardening Assange, but anyway, I hope that comes out. And Rand Paul, by the way, my official stance here is Trump 2020, Rand Paul 2024, because one of my things is who's going to take over after Trump. And Rand Paul seems like he's got what it takes. And he's been stepping up. He's been critical of Trump, which I agree with some of the critical stuff, all the military stuff around the world and all that. So Rand Paul did fall from the Ron Paul tree, and that's good. So I'm encouraged to see that stuff. Well, this stuff just happened yesterday. Is the independent new media journalist Mike Cernovich was fed material by one of his followers who did some research and found the director of Guardian of Galaxies has been tweeting out for years pedophile, quote, jokes, which are pretty disgusting. And so he being the guy who found this, passed it along to Mike Cernovich, who then tweeted it out, which started a massive deleting campaign where the director went on his, James Gunn, went on a rampage and deleted 10,000 tweets over the years. And so he's the guy that is in the wrong, right? Correct? Pedophile jokes, talking about on the set, apparently a monkey was masturbating on a child who was not happy about it, crying or yelling about it, and he thought it was really funny. That's just one of them. So if that actually really did happen, that would be, of course, very disturbing in terms of possible legal action. But the idea of that being a joke, fictional or otherwise, is disturbing as well. So what do you think the media says? White supremacists work to get Guardian of the Galaxy's director James Gunn fired. Now, why would the white supremacists? I'm looking at the picture. He looks white to me. Then again, you can talk to Roseanne about that one. And why would the white supremacists work to get Guardian of the Galaxy? Is there something about Guardian of the Galaxies that would offend the white supremacists? No, it's just a name. It's a name that Yahoo is using to call people like Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec white supremacists. So therefore, what they do doesn't count. This is the logic. Even though the guy with the 10,000 tweets, and of course you can't delete anything in the world. There's all kind of backups and whatnots. So as they try to delete it, all Cernovich did was put more out. And, the thing is it's obvious he's part of it. So he ends up getting fired by Disney, Disney of all things, And so now there's actually a petition to get him hired back. And Cernovich, of course, is under all kinds of threats and whatnot for doing this. Now, who's the guy that wrote the pedophile jokes? Hello? He's the guy that did it. So instead of going, hey, you were a jerk for doing it, now you're ruining it. No, it's Cernovich. So it's not. It fits in, and that's what again, going into the theme song, a theme of the show is that I should play the Clash. Should I stay or should I go? I mean, do you engage or do you not engage? And I'll get to that part in a minute. And somebody asked, well, why are they so upset? And I said, well, the systematic pedophilia in Hollywood and in government is so universally disdained across all ideologies that the risk of the instant uniting of all of the people they've been working years to divide against. Now, if you talk about black and white, Hispanic, Asian, all the other groups you want, you talk about Christians and atheists or Muslims, with the exception of the extremists who apparently like 14-year-old girls, and different nationalities. Do you think it's okay? Do people in Finland and people in Chile think it's okay for pedophiles? I mean, all across the world, people could unite on the side of, is pedophilia okay, not okay? They're working hard to try and get people that have the transgender children and all that nonsense. And so when you put it all together, it is so disdained universally that if it came out that this stuff was systematic in government in Hollywood, the response would be brutally hard, fast, and you could probably go back to the good old days. Well, I shouldn't say good old days, the rough old days of, lynchings. Only this would be for pedophilia lynchings. And of course, there'd be people who, you need due process regardless. Cernovich is representing someone who has been on the abuse end from Epstein, who was a minor, and so he wants the person wants to get things unsealed. The court was sealed, right, and the minor is now going, no, I want it all unsealed, so all the details come out. So he's fighting that. I also want to mention a while ago, probably before I was doing the YouTubes on a weekly basis, actually, I'm sure it was a couple of years ago, I had some major malware. All through my life, I have been through computers going back to punch cards, and I've stayed away from, I don't open up attachments that are executables. I don't go to porn sites. I don't download hackwares and all that stuff. And so those are all the spots where you find most of the viruses. And I haven't had a virus in my computer, I don't think, ever. I've caught a few in email, but I've never had a virus or malware that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm trying to think, and I'm thinking I don't think I've had any. And then I talked with Dr. Richard Allen Miller once, and he was talking about how his computer was actually physically hacked, meaning like there was a hard drive missing, and then it came up, it was there again. And that's where I think I got this invasion, and it was very bad. And I couldn't all my stuff couldn't find anything. So I went to this place, and I highly recommend it, malwaretips.com. You post your problems, and they will give you software to run to give them a detailed analysis, and then they have a code. They'll send you a script to run with the software, and then they do another look-see, and then they write another little script. And it took 3 times, but it cleared it off. And he also, the guy told me, the name was Twin-Headed Eagle, is the guy's name who did this. He gave me a list of what to run normally in my system to keep it clean, and, knock on wood, and knock on my head, it's been clean since then. So I wanted to mention malwaretips.com, and it's free, but they accept donations, which I gladly gave him a donation for what he did, because the system was just about unusable. I mentioned about the Trump flag. Apparently Putin offered a referendum in eastern Ukraine, whether or not they want to go stay with Russia or whatnot. And it says Trump slams the door on it. Well, my guess, it's not Trump who slammed the door. But when he came back from the meeting, he had a few people who were not too happy with what was going on. And so that put it up there. I bring the soccer ball up because, I've mentioned in my opinion that at least the queue that's around now is not legit. It's more of a farce. But one of the things this Q wrote was that in that soccer ball was 160 terabytes of data that the Russians have on all of the dirt, on all the politicians and whatnot. And so here's an article. Putin's soccer ball gift gets routine security check. So the question is, do you think they could get the chip out of it before the check? Or is that whole chip thing is just a nice little fantasy, in which I would go with the latter. And as I posted, I encounter very few facts. Most are assumptions, beliefs, and fears. Facts are very hard to come by because it takes actual critical thinking and proof. One of the things that you have to go to, why you go to jail. There's the Guardian of the Galaxy. Roseanne Barr made her statement. She thinks that she was fired because she voted for Trump. A lot of stuff's old news. It was only last week, right? But the news cycle is so much that I say this stuff, and I'm thinking like, but the leader of the FBI, Ray, said he would quit if the Russians came in to examine things, and I'm like, well, there you go. That's a good way to do it. Again, no, but Trump got to know on Russia, and he has to kind of regroup. But this is a beautiful James Woods. I'm surprised, his house hasn't been on fire or something, because he's been coming up with stuff so right on the mark. And here's a video. Wait.
Absolutely is don't send your children.
All right, let me start this. This is Obama giving a message to South America.
Is your message don't come?
Oh, our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. That is our direct message to the families in Central America. Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it.
Let's talk.
There is spoken by the great racist Mama. Now again, I hate. I'm not trying to get. I'm not political here. I am anti-BS. Okay, so if it was, I've been very critical of Bush with the 9/11 and all this stuff. I mean, so it's not, but we are at a critical juncture, and for one who doesn't have faith in the plan, these things have to go out. And like, speaking of the plan, Robert Mueller offers Tony Podesta immunity to test against Paul Manafort. So Podesta, well, at least one, there's allegedly five people who are, they want them to be anonymously given immunity, so in case they need them to testify, they're ready. But they don't want to mention who it is. I mean, huh? I mean, what kind of garbage is this? And so several people have come up with enough sources to agree that Pedoni Podesta is at least one of the 5. And I'm thinking, what a great way to get all of these people off the hook, like the Owan brothers, and get immunity for life backwards. And so now you have Tony Podesta getting immunity, testifying against Paul Manafort, and basically they both have the same crime, not registering as a foreign agent properly. And so one gets to testify against the other, and it's not partisan. Nah, it's partisan at all. Oh, man. Tucker Carlson, again, Carlson did a great little thing. I'm not a mainstream guy. And even Fox, Fox is, they've been doing good lately as far as coming up with stuff. But again, you're going to get the Russia stuff. You're going to hear how bad Russia is from those guys. But Tucker Carlson did a great job. Also, I got this link, and I'll read it out loud. It's simple for those listening. Shadowban.eu. You're supposed to put in a Twitter handle, and it checks to see if you're shadow banned. No, I wasn't, but I noticed that. No, I can't say her name because I'm seeing her face. God, Laura. I'm sorry. This is one of these things I have to deal with. Laura Loomer. There we go. Laura Loomer is shadow banned, according to this. And so you can take that test to see if you're shadow banned. I wish they'd come up with one for Facebook, because no doubt, people that are on my list of all my friends say, I haven't heard from you in a while. It's like, well, I've been posting. So it's not getting out there. But that's one way to check it out. So it's shadowban.eu is the website. Just enter in the name. Now, my sister, being a champion of this stuff, benzodiazepines linked to higher mortality among drug users than heroin, cocaine, says health experts. Hello with that one. More people die who are associated with diazepam, which is going to be like Klonopin and Valium, than heroin and cocaine. Now, they do have, I think this is the page. I had to turn it off because my memory was getting low, but they do go through this. Well, maybe it is a different page. They had a nice list. So let me get to the other one before I'll show you it. But this stuff's coming out now, and it's, I think I've got the wrong thing here. Very, very, if somebody offers you antidepressants or anti-anxieties, what I would do if offered, I guess that's the legal way to say it, is I would never, under any circumstance, take these drugs. And when I was in the hospital, I said absolutely not. And they said, well, there's no reason for it. Now, it actually, on the anti-anxiety, you could take it for like a one-time thing. It's not going to be addictive, ruin your life. Now, I guess my sister would correct me and say some people are affected with one dose. So I got to say that. But people who actually live on this stuff have a hell of a time getting off it. Let's see. I'm going to skip all that. Oh, here's the other one. This is really important. And when I was in the hospital, again, I talked about this, Levaquin. This is a class of antibiotics that are based on fluoride. Well, maybe fluorine would be the proper way to say it. Fluoride is a compound. But here's the deal. It's fluoroquinolines is the class, which includes Cipro and Avelox. If you look at their names, you'll see it says ciprofloxacin, and it says moxifluoroxacin, and that's where you got that. You're going to find that flow in there for fluoride. That's going to be the key. Are an important class of antibiotics that treat a range of bacterial infections, some of which are serious and can be life-threatening. Cipro has been used in more than 600 million patients worldwide. On July 10th, the FDA issued an announcement, and there's a link there, to reinforce safety information about the risks of low blood sugar levels and mental health side effects with the fluoroquinolone antibiotics, and is requiring label changes for these devices. This is a class-wide label change for all NDA and ANDA holders of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. The company has 30 days to respond for the proposed label changes. It is very, very important to understand that these are really heavy-duty antibiotics and have grave side effects and are being used. Lucinda went in to have her teeth. She had a problem with gums and teeth, and she managed. We got her dentures. She had to pull out the remaining teeth and all that. And so when they went in there, they were going to give her this stuff as a precaution against infection. You know, I almost had a heart attack. And I'm going, no, you can't do that. That's like giving somebody, like, you know, a bazooka, for a squirrel or something, you know. And the person wouldn't listen to me. She kept ignoring me like I didn't exist and asked Lucinda what she wanted to do. Well, Lucinda took my advice, of course, and didn't. And they gave her a regular old antibiotic that you would normally get, and she was fine. So these are things that are just major stuff. So remember that any kind of Quinn, Levaquin, Alox, and Pro, and all these things with those names, look up the actual patented name for the chemical, and you will see that if it's a fluoroquinolone quinolones class, you know, they're intended for major infections like pneumonia and anthrax. The plague. Oh, hello. I may get an infection from a tooth pull, so why don't you give me the medicine you use for anthrax and the plague? So I thought that was very important, and I wanted to share that with you all. As a personal note, I found a company that will take old 8-track reel-to-reels and pull off the music. And so I sent a link to 2 people who were in the band I was in and said, hey, I got those from Masters from Sam, and I'm going to send them in and get them transferred. And that'd be cool. They'll be able to remix that. That's the fun things that I would be doing, you know, if I could. I mentioned this. Here's the FDA link about this, what I was talking about. There's the actual FDA link about the fluoroquinolones. Oh, what a great quote here. Well, it's actually an unfortunate quote. It's true, unfortunately. It's from Chris Hedges, which actually I don't know who he is, but I read the quote and I liked it. So, we now live in a nation where doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom, and the press destroys information, religion destroys morals, and our banks destroy the economy. There you go. It's a grave and unfortunate but true. Here. You're talking in the chat room. Okay, I was looking to see if there's anything Yeah, the main reason that Trump hates him. Look at these links when I put them up, or, you know, if you're on Facebook, scroll down. Very good. I was very impressed with this Tucker stuff, and you know, and I don't know if he's going to get a trimming, or going to pin his ears back, or he's going to get a talking to, and what he'll do about it. But he nailed it right on the head. That Trump had to take a genuflect, is the way he said it. He had to go back and they could step back. So I'm concerned, but Trump has been nailed many times before, and he has bounced back. So Podesta, those are Podesta stuff. As this stuff comes up, I mentioned it. Now there was an actual court case with Tommy Robinson in England. As I mentioned last week, Trump shows up in England, and all of a sudden they move his appeal back, meaning closer to, instead of pushing it up, they pushed it back. And he did have that meeting, and apparently to try, can't think of the word now, 3 judges. A 3-judge panel. Let's talk like a first grader pretty soon. And they had the main judge was the head of the Supreme Court in in China, in England. And what apparently this guy who's reporting on it, Ezra Leviant of Rebel Media, said that it appeared to him that the main judge his questions were somewhat sympathetic to Tommy Robinson, especially how he's been treated by the law system, and the other two judges seemed a little bit apathetic or perhaps even negative to Tom Robinson, and they have him stay in prison until their decision, which they expect before the end of the month. But Ezra seems that he was there in the court. He seems doesn't want to get too excited, but he seems like they might give him at worst time served, and at best it might actually throw out his conviction. So we'll have to see on that. Another mainstream guy, Mark Levine. Again, these guys are Republicans, and going back in the day, they were a hardcore guy. I hear them on the radio talking, and they were using techniques to win the argument as opposed to truth. But in these times we're in now, the truth is like good enough to use without having to push it. And Levin just does a tremendous smackdown. I mean, these videos, these clips to me are 5-star, top of the line stuff, full of facts, him and Tucker, full of facts, full of reality, no hyperbole, nothing that is taking things out of context and whatnot. So that's why I put these up there. I don't put them up because I'm following an ideology blindly. I'm following it openly. There's a conspiracy channel. Right. This is a pretty funny meme. Don't let Russia interfere in 2020. Demand voter ID. So I like that type of deal. Now, this is important. I want to play. I've seen it around now, so it might be old news. According to the MSN, this is fine. You have Obama and Putin. You have Hillary and Putin. You have Bill Clinton and Putin. You have Schumer and Putin. You have the two Bushes and Putin. But when it comes to Trump and Putin, it's the end of the world. So, but I want to take this opportunity to say something that it's not about fairness, because they aren't open to fairness. It's not about, they're not going to go, oh, you got a good point there, I'm going to change my position. They're about winning. They're about destroying. They're about decimating. That's what they're going for. This group of people, which is on both parties. This is not a political partisan thing, and those individuals are going to destroy the constitutional country we're in order to make a more like a American version of the Soviet system. Yeah, and it shows there's a movie called Spinning Boris, and where there was an individual who was helping Boris Yeltsin get elected in Russia, and the United States was helping that. I mean, it's like, how dare you? You're meddling in our elections? Well, what is the United States been doing forever? And there's a video I posted it and talked about another show where they ask a former CIA chief, you ever meddled in any foreign elections? And he starts smiling. He goes, well, in that case, it was really for the best. Oh, okay. So, and this is the theme now. This is the theme on that side, is when they do it, it's for this higher good. So they can break the law for a better law, so to speak. And I've coined a term, I think I have anyway. It's called redactive propaganda, defined as the exclusion or alteration of information running contrary to a particular theme without the participants' awareness in order to protect or further that theme. I don't think it's earth-shattering, but I think it's something we can use when we're talking about what's going on, is when they censor you without telling you, it's redactive propaganda. The whole shadow ban thing and all that. I'm trying to get back. I'm seeing a lot of stuff here. I don't mean to blow by it, but some of the stuff is so obvious that when I post it, I feel like stupid. I'm waiting for somebody to go like, duh, what do you post this stuff? It's so obvious, but it isn't anymore. Yeah, the Clinton probe, $400 million was given to Hillary Clinton. I mean, if you have election caps on elections, and D'Souza ends up going to prison because he gave more than he should have to a family member, I think it was, or some kind of relation or friend of his wife or something. And then you have, not Roseanne, Rosie O'Donnell, who is not being charged at all, who did the same thing. And said, like, she's like, oh, I must have forgot. Only she used different names, spellings of her name, different banks, different things to try and show that there was, and that's okay. And so now you have $400 million is given to Hillary, which turns out to be, according to Putin, removed from Russia, tax-free. And so they're not going to, we're not going to look at that. We're not going to look at that. And this could be, I think, Trump's best quote, whether he wrote it or not. I would rather take a political risk in pursuit of peace than risk peace in pursuit of politics. That is a ask not what your country can do for you type of a quote that hopefully will live far beyond his time. I think I want to just stop this stuff because it's like the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I also want to mention this one YouTube channel if you're not watching it already. Called Headlines with a Voice. I highly recommend them. They're very earthy, down-to-earth, rational. You know, there are some assumptions, not assumptions, assertions that are being made, but they have some kind of a basis. It's okay. Let's think about that. You know, and so check out those videos. I'm not going to go through them all here. I'll just put the link to there and I'll tell you about it, and then I'll leave it up to you. The book Snake in Suits. I probably talked about it last week, but then I went and put the links up for it. It's written by Robert D. Hare. I guess it's also written with Paul Abiak. But Snakes in Suits, and the subtitle is When Psychopaths Go to Work. It's a great read and various things there. Yeah, I probably put it afterwards. Now, I didn't get to put the updated links for last week's show until a few days ago because I had to get to work. Now, I got some time afterwards. When I'm done with the show, I'll update this one, but I had to go to work. And keep this Assange thing on your mind because Assange they're going to just say, nope, you can't be here anymore. And he'll have to leave and walk right into British, who will send him over here. And they'll give him a Tommy Robinson trial. And, it's unfortunate. He slipped down the stairs when he really should walk. And they're doing this stuff fast because, and Trump can end it all. And Trump, it probably in the back of what Trump's mind is that if Manafort if they go all the way against Manafort and he goes to prison, you can always pardon him. And probably the same thing is happening here. He's not going to get in. He's not going to preemptively do it. He's going to do what he needs to do. And so that deal there. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, yeah. People were commenting on Vince Foster. It's an anniversary of Vince Foster's death. He shot himself 3 times in the back of the head to avoid testifying against Hillary Clinton. That's I didn't know. I thought it was 2, maybe 3. I don't know. Something like that. Some kind of like. So I wrote down a sarcastic amount saying, well, those semi-automatic automatic weapons, you pull one pull and it's like 3 shots. So I could see where that happened. And then after that, this to me is the more crazy thing, is he dragged himself about 100 feet away from where he killed himself. And that's a little hard to do. 3 shots in the head, you drag yourself down the street, and either then die or die and somehow, And it was robbery, of course, just like Beth Rich was robbery, of course. Only, they have all their stuff there. And then somebody, of course, ramshacks Vince Foster's office after this. I wonder what they were looking for. Probably just looking to see if any, lottery tickets laying around. But anyway, the point is, and after talking about all this, I kind of talked about what I'm going to do already, but the point I want to get at is, do we engage or do we not engage? Be of the world, but not in the world, but not of the world. And it's like we have to engage to some degree, because otherwise we sit back like the swamis in the caves. They just sit and they meditate and pray in the caves, and they have spiritual enlightenment. But meanwhile, the rest of us are outside the cave, and so forth. And the monks who pray, I'm not, my theology is based on a lot of experience, thinking, reading the Bible, looking at what the words mean in Greek and Hebrew, rationalizing it all out. And of course I believe in God, Jesus, the whole 9 yards. But and I believe in it because I've researched it. To me, it's real, it's factual, but I can't prove it to someone, and that's where a lot of these things sit. When you're talking about certain things in declassified paperwork, MK Ultra, to what degree does it work? Beaming radiation in your head and making you think stuff. There's not conclusive evidence that this stuff's going on. Of course, because it's clandestine, so they're not going to come out and go, yeah, that's what we're doing. But what I'm trying to say is, when you get into this approach, you have to do what you got to do. And I use the example again. When I try to find out philosophically what I want to do, what I should do, I go to Jesus. I look at what he said. Now, it's not whatever he said isn't in total. There's stuff that he said that isn't recorded. I presume that enough is recorded to get the points across, the major points. There's not some secret thing that's missing that the secret societies have, so they can get you secretly into their system and get them under your thumb. What Jesus said in the red letters is enough to do the job. And so when I go back for principles in life, I think of the parable where you had the priests walking on the Sabbath, seeing this guy who fell and hurt himself, not wanting to be unclean on the Sabbath. They walked on the other side of the street. You had a priest and a Pharisee. I forgot the two holy guys. And they passed this guy by. But then they mention the Samaritan, which was the Samaritans were looked down upon the Jews. The Samaritans, if I understand correctly, if I'm wrong from memory, Samaritans were the Jews that weren't taken to Babylon. So they rounded up all the Jews, killed like 90% of them, took all the leaders, the teachers, the preachers, the lawyers, the police, the army, killed them all, took the remainder to Babylon for like 70 years. Those who stayed behind and, reproduced and whatever, those were the Samaritans. So when the ones came back out of Babylon, they looked down on them like, yeah, we got taken over here and we had to do this. You guys didn't do it. So they became second-class citizens, so to speak. And so in this particular parable, Jesus is saying the Samaritan, who you look at as unholy, did the right thing by helping this guy out. Took him into an inn, gave him some money, the innkeeper some money to take care of him, bound his wounds. I'm going to come back. If you need some more cash, do what's needed. I'll be back to pay for it. And he's the guy who is the lower class Jew, let's say, and or Israelite. Frankly, I've never been able to figure out what to call the people who were born of Jacob. I'm not going to be able to think of his name. Jacob, 12 tribes of Jacob. Yeah, okay, right. I'm not going to be able to come up with him. But so the lower class one got it right, and the people whose job it is to know exactly what God has said got it wrong. But also what that teaches me is that when his job was not to go out try to find things to do, this guy went along as he would go along on business or what have you. He's driving by, walking by, happens to go along. He sees the need. He meets the need. He meets the need very well because he had enough money to do this. He does a good job, helps him out, and so forth. Jesus commends that idea. So I take that principle, okay, as I go in through the world, and as the need comes for me to intervene in a Jesus-taught method, somebody's getting, beat up or hurt, I'm going to intervene, even if I end up getting killed. I'm not going to walk away and say, well, I don't want to hurt myself, so I'll let that other person. I mean, if I see it, I got to do it. If I see bullshit, I got to do something about it. If I see injustice, if I see people getting hurt, if I see this, and I don't care if somebody's smoking dope and it's illegal. I don't care. I have no idea. If they're beating somebody up for money to go buy dope, it's the beating up part, stealing part that I'm looking at. I'm not interested. If you can see my point. And so what we're at right now is for those people who've already kind of made that choice to serve God and good than be greedy and selfish and evil. Right? If you're already made that choice, now the next stage is, well, what do I do? How do I survive in this absolutely crazy, insane world? It's insane out there. It's totally insane. 61 years old, I've never seen anything close to this crazy that's out there. I mean, this is the energy that's coming into the world. If you got any problems, you're not going to have the buffer to fool around. You got to do something, or you will go down in that stuff. Because I think one of the things happening here is not only people are making a decision, whether it be for good or ill, they're also going to have to grow out of their ills, which we all have, walk away from them because they will consume them, because the dark side or whatever, evil, will use whatever it can. I mean, it's rampant on the earth now. I mean, I guess if you want to get into the narrative that their time is short, they've been thrown down to the earth and all that narrative, this would explain, at least in principle, what's going on here. And so you have to do something about it, but don't make plans on what to do. Keep yourself open. Learn the principles of God. Keep yourself open and available as you go, and protect yourself. Take things necessary. I don't mean do a Paul Kersey death wish and walk through, and so on. But, conceal carry, taking safe routes and all that, fine. Doing techniques in the car when knuckleheads come get you. The goal is to survive and do the right thing, and especially help others who are in need. Let's see. See, there's a difference. No religion ever told you the truth. There's a difference between religion and people's search for God. What happens in the beginning of all things? It's all good in that, and then the psychopaths come in for the power and control. If there wasn't power and control, you wouldn't have psychopaths involved. So, where are the psychopaths? Where there's power and control: government, religion, any kind of power structures. And that's why when you have religion, you have the power structure, and they're going to teach you what you need to know to be a good person in line for them, and so on. It's what it comes down to. So that's why I get aggravated. Another thing that I wanted to mention was I saw people quoting from the Quran and talking about how evil Islam was, and I disagree with the tenets of Islam, but the point I brought up was there's some plenty of stuff in the Old Testament that isn't that great either, and they were talking about how the father slept with the daughter of his son who died so they would have a child. So it'd be the son, the father-in-law, the father of the son. And I said, well, in Deuteronomy, it talks about if brothers live together and the wife dies, or he dies, and the wife is childless, the other brother can take her, go into her, I think it is, and produce child, so they won't be without a child. Now, if somebody did that here, I mean, you could do it legally. I mean, you could do it. If people would sleep with anybody anywhere and get pregnant. But in terms of being a religion, being a holy or a righteous, right thing to do, we wouldn't do that now. But it's there. And there are people who say things like the Bible, front to back, word for word, is the word of God, unerrant and perfect. Okay, well, that person can turn around and use that if they wanted to. And don't be mistaken. I've dealt with fundamental Christian being a teacher in Sunday school, and there are people I ran who would be tearing down the high places of Baal, as they would call it, which would be any kind of pagan stuff. And that definition gets wider and wider, and they would be leave no witch alive. This is what they would be doing, and they would be serving God. It just so happens that Christianity has gotten, got some culture or civilized over time, and those things are in the back, and we don't talk about them. But be more than happy to talk about other people's problems. Now, the whole 72 Virgin and all that stuff, obviously that's, and I've known a person who was a black Muslim and one of the nicest people I've ever met. I didn't think I had to worry about him doing any kind of killing people for virgins, right? He was a nice guy. So again, the problem is the people that are coming in now are very low IQ, untrained. And so the people who aren't crazy and murderous are going to be as a weight on the system financially to pay for taking care of them. And the ones who are radicalized are going to start blowing stuff up and killing people. So this is a Trojan horse done by our own governments. Trump is fighting it. The left is embracing it at all costs. And in Europe, it's doing it all. They're embracing it. It is an invasion. It's a passive-aggressive invasion planned by the globalist system to break the backs financially and otherwise of the nations, of the Western nations. It's simple as that. That's no paranoia. That's no weird, sweeping, hey, well, how could you say that? I could sit here and go through all the evidence, but I'm preaching to the choir at this point. So, I mean, this is the point, and my whole point of the title was, what do we do? And I think the answer, Jesus says, go you therefore teach all nations. If you look at the Greek, I remember reading about this, where the translation of it, go teach all nations, if you want to get the an equal flavor of what it could be translated at, you could say, as you go, teach all nations. As you go, meaning like I'm a carpenter, so as I'm doing carpentry, I'm going to live my life following the tenets that Jesus taught. And I'm a steel worker. If I'm a manager, as I go, follow these principles, and for the most part, living them out will be the biggest teacher of it. Let me see if I can look here. Yeah, I like that. Be soul-inspired in the midst of chaos and turmoil. Because the whole point of chaos, let's take these, and these things come to mind, so I'm just going to bring them up. Peter, they're in a storm, in the ship. Jesus comes walking across the water, and they're like, wow. And then Peter says, and I like Peter, right? Peter says, if it's you, Lord, bid me out to walk on the water. And he goes, come. So he walks out on the water, and he's walking. And then he saw the storm and the waves, and his faith faltered. He started to sink. And he says to Jesus, help me. And Jesus, and I love the words, immediately reached out and touched him. So in this chaos and the storm, God is telling us to walk out on the waves of the storm. Walk out into the stuff in peace as you go, in peace through the storm. Both be prepared to help and also do not hesitate to ask for help. When you're down, when things are up, you go to God and say, Lord, help me. I tend to say, Father, because I follow Jesus. And how Jesus talked, I talk. Jesus never said Jehovah, Yahweh. Jesus said Father. When I talk to God, which is the term to describe his position, Creator, God, I say Father. And I look at God as my Father. And I say, Father, help me. And immediately he reaches out in the spirit and in the material world by using the rest of us. How does God help? Does he send miracles and angels and all that? Well, he could. But I say the most of the help is from other people who are God with skin on, walking around being available to help. So not only would the Samaritan help the person in need, but that Samaritan gets help. And that's how we should get through all of this. So don't worry about the stuff going on, whether things are good for a while, reprieved, and have some kind of a golden age, as people are saying, or whether or not it goes all to hell and it becomes a hellhole until God comes or until you die. Those principles, you walk through there. And I know it's hard. I'm not saying it's fun or easy. I don't want to do it. But that's how I think it is. And, you know, it's another thing. When people say, there was an example, a lady I knew, her brother had a son who had what is that called? The blood cancer, or lymph node cancer. I can't think of the name right now. And he died, leukemia, and he died at 7 years old, and he died. So in the Christian church this guy goes to, he's a completely broken man. Just a broken man. He loved his son. He's in church. So what some knucklehead says in church to him? Well, if you had more faith and prayed, he would have been alive. But this man, I mean, that came out of the actual voice box of Satan. And it's pierced this man's heart, which is already hurting. And you know, I haven't seen this in a long time, but this guy was an alcoholic for many, many years. Just constantly mourning and feeling guilty about his son. And so that is what you gotta say. You gotta really help the person. And what makes people different than psychopaths is empathy. A psychopath can come up with logically and do things and lie beautifully and do whatever. But someone who feels the pain of another person, that is God with skin on, reaching in and helping that burden with that person by feeling the pain that person has. This is the kind of help that God wants us to do to one another, not necessarily go out there and start talking about, in the Quran it says this, and the Quran it says that. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not true. Or at least parts of it is. I'm saying, like, how do you go out and help? If you saw a Muslim person in need, and you could easily take that high road and walk on the other side and go, like, I'm not going to go help one of them. You take the people, it's a person, and you help them as you can and deal with it. And this is why the earth is becoming split. It is the great calling, the great wheat and chaff. We're living in right now the wheat from the chaff. We're actually seeing it around us. It is all around us. We're living through it. We're being separated. And by our deeds, God will know us. By our actions, not our theological banter, not our posts on Facebook. But when we go out into the world, how we behave. Are you honest at work? Your bosses, they cheat you left and right, so I'm going to cheat them back. Show them, what does it say? What did Jesus say to do that? I didn't see that one. So by doing the right thing, and so right now we're in a time of testing. That's normal, right? To do the right thing, but now we got to do the right thing while, jumping on one foot, having one hand juggling a fireball or something. This is what we're at now. This is the crucible. This is the great, people say, that's another reason why I don't like the whole pre-trib rapture. Oh, we don't have to worry about it. We'll be out of here by the time the rapture comes. Well, let's say there is a pre-trib rapture. It can get pretty bad. What's the tribulation? What does that mean? I mean, this is bad enough to be the tribulation. You have to just do what you got to do, and we're going to die eventually. And whether they, burn you and hack you apart, which would be mighty awful, or you have a heart attack in night when you sleep, no matter how bad the torture is, you're going to die eventually. And God, of course, is quite loving and forgiving. So, anyway, I hope I got into enough of that for everybody to explain. like this. I don't have my reading glasses with. I know I got like 3 pairs of glasses, right? I'm going to move the mic closer here. Spiritual, not religious. Human decency, not morals. People, not politicians. Learn to work naturally with chaos. Do not ride the party line of false, idealistic, man-made order. Very well put, Shadow Kane in the chat room. So, like I said, no less visible today on this show, or this broadcast. I don't want to say show. It's like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Here's the show, right? But I have if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you've already been notified. You hit that little bell or stuff. You're already notified that the show has been uploaded. Or if you're on Facebook, you've seen it or whatnot. But you can go to feetthefireradio.com and you can see it there, or go to the YouTube channel. And Less Visible goes into a talk about how he ended up, meeting and talking to Jesus Christ. And you listen to it. I told you, the lady called in the beginning and mentioned about how the recording isn't the greatest. It was the fact he's talking in a little microphone in his in his camera or his laptop or whatever it is, and it's not the greatest. But I think it's worth listening to, and it makes sense that there'd be some reason not to listen, right? There was plenty of reasons for us not to record it, and we're doing it. We're just going to go for. I mean, the worst I can do is record it and throw it out, but I'm not going to just not record it. And so we got through it. I listened to it. I heard what he was saying, so if you just pay attention, I have the audio version up on Spreaker if you want to just download that and listen to it. I added a little more compression onto it. I don't know, maybe it helped. And the video isn't all that great either from Les. It's okay, but try and I would listen. Yeah, there is some counsel and wisdom in it as far as getting through these times. And so that's why I thought it was worth sharing. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to go. Also, I want to say that I am reconsidering doing these kind of live talks about what's going on in the news, because I think it's pretty well. We got I pretty much don't think what I can add at this point. I don't even know if I added anything. Maybe some individuals, I'm sure, was good to hear, but and so I may just get into some topics. I have a request in with Nick Begich. Trouble is I have an email. Like this lady said, my email server is being tagged now as spam. I've done all the things I'm supposed to do, so I'm looking at switching servers anyway to save some money. Plus, it'd have a different, I'd have a better handle on handling the reverse DNS, which is one of the problems, and the text records. I have some access to it. I don't have all of it. There's certain tags you can put in there to make it more legitimate, focused. And so I'm looking at doing that. It's another thing that's going to be all day. But the and I got on a tangent. I forgot what I said originally. But anyway, this is what's going on. You got to just kind of hang in. It's like we're in a Fellini movie, or we're in a David Lynch movie, and rather than holding on to what you're seeing in the movie as reality, you have to hold on to those principles. And to me, for my money, Jesus taught it really good. I'm not talking about the church, any church, and I'm talking about read the red letters in the New Testament. I'm not worried about the narratives. I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. Just what he said. That's what I do. And I don't even. I walk a little carefully in Revelation too, but in the narrative Gospels, there's quotes from him that's been passed around forever. I think they're pretty well that he said it, and following him. Follow what he says, and you will be saved. And that word saved is a wide-ranging word, spared from numerous problems that you wouldn't have been if you didn't follow. So, all right, I'm gonna keep on rambling here. Appreciate those who come out and listen to this live, because it's kind of cool that you decide to drop everything and come here. And those who are listening either in archive form, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. It's just a little extra cool. I have people hanging around for me. I mean, that's just me. And but I'm happy to do this as long as someone wants to hear me. I mean, the numbers aren't great on YouTube. I'm sure I'm being shadow banned to some degree on all of that, because the guys who got the millions and so on, they started doing this before the shadow banning. And that's fine, because luckily I'm not ego attached to it. But as long as someone wants to hear, I'll do it. Because I'm doing this for me. I've learned this stuff for me, and I'm just sharing. So I think we'll just end it there. There we go.
Thank you.